DeLuna Coffee has been fueling Florida and beyond since 2014, and now wake up Warchant. DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by the Lennox family, Ed, Courtney, and their son Brett. When not roasting the perfect coffee blends, these FSU diehards can be found tailgating near the Unconquered statue. Go and set your sights on their Lighthouse blend. Made of 5 different coffee origins, a combination of light and medium roasted beans creates this wonderful cup of premium coffee. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Take that promo code WARCHANT15 over to the website. Use it. Get 15% off your order. Or you can use the promo code BOGO Candy. All Blue Angels chocolate tins are buy one, get one free. That's BOGO. You can also, if you're pressed for time, which we all are, man, I did something really stupid on Sunday, by the way. Maybe we'll talk about it later. It only takes 30 seconds because my stories are short. But you can order a DeLuna Coffee gift card. So bada bing, bada boom. Think that's delivered electronically. You can send it to a friend. Don't have to worry about going out there into a brick and mortar store and dealing with bedlam. So get on it. Get on it. Or go to warchant.com. It's your ultimate Seminole sports source. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Thumbs up, 5-star rating, and review as we wind down the holiday season. Corey S. Clark here, everybody. Corey, how are you?
I'm good. I feel like you were taking a shot at me by talking about how short your stories are.
A little bit. Well, I mean, you know, if it was two guys like me talking, this podcast would be 13 minutes, and that's not a podcast.
Right, correct.
Weird.
I like to elongate it a little bit. Give the people what they came for, a little bit of get their money's worth.
Well, when I was in Alabama, my co-host did what I did. Like he produced, he took the phone calls, and man, but it felt very solo. He would not give me a lot, and it hurt. It was like, gosh, I'm like, give me something, man. Like I can't. The segment's 13 minutes long before we go to commercial. I can't talk 13 minutes about Jarrett Stidham and the Auburn pass offense. Help me here, and he wouldn't give me anything. So I got the polar opposite of that, and I'm glad. I'm happy.
Right.
I am thankful this holiday season, as I've been the last 4 of these that we've been together. 3, 4. We've been here since 18. 18,
I
19,
think,
20.
yeah, we've done 18, 19. This is our 4th Christmas together, Aslan.
God, I love you, man.
We should send out Christmas cards. Do you send out Christmas cards?
I mean, I don't. If I had a family, I would, but I don't.
Yeah, and I don't either.
So you have a family. You just don't send out the Christmas cards.
Right. So you and I should send out Christmas cards next year.
I'm game. I am game.
Dude, I'll pose with you on a fence post. I don't care. I'll sit in a tree or go into a pasture somewhere and take a picture with you.
Oh, man. Not lots new to talk about since we've been together. One thing of note, though, it's a column by Corey Clark over on warchant.com that's been available now here for about a day as you're listening to this podcast. This is a Renegade Express edition of the program, Corey, so let's intertwine. Let's dovetail these together. Let's go down to Naples. Let's talk to our guy, Mark M. Adam CZ. Wake up! Very Merry Christmas to you both. My wife asked me what I wanted this year. I told her 3 stud receivers from the portal and a daily podcast from Corey Clark and Aslan Hajavandi. And I'm good. Question and possible dilemma. Thank you, Mark. We appreciate everything you've done for us, your support, coming out, hanging out with us, and the tips when we do the live show. Hopefully everything with you and the wife, the children. Hopefully the golf game's strong. Appreciate it. Question, possible dilemma, Corey Clark. Play calling. With Alex Atkins to the offensive coordinator spot, which is well-deserved, what do you think Mike's plan is for play calling? I would sit behind the FSU offensive line group at games like Boston College, and Atkins was constantly coaching them up. Don't want to lose that advantage, and I would think the offensive coordinator and primary play caller would need to be up in the booth. Maybe I'm wrong. And if Mike puts the energy and focus into calling plays, it obviously makes it harder for him to focus on the entire team during the games. He appears to be very hands-on with all the players and coaches. What do you think the plan will be? Go Noles. I'm very thankful for the guys who honor their commitments and said yes to FSU.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's kind of what I wrote about was like, you know, the Atkins, there's only 6 offensive line coaches in the Power 5 that are also offensive coordinators. He's one of 6. As far as I can tell, Texas is one, Arizona's one, UCLA with Chip Kelly is one, Michigan has a co-offensive coordinator. So looking at those guys, it would appear that they aren't calling plays. Like maybe the guy at Michigan does, but I would be surprised if Chip Kelly's OC, for instance, calls plays. To me, it's just like you pointed out, Mark. I just think it's too hard to do both. If you watch an offensive line coach, they are coaching the entire game when the offense isn't on the field. The entire game. They got the whiteboard in front of them. They're sitting in front of them. They're drawing things up. They're replacing players that aren't playing well. They're admonishing. They're cajoling. Whatever you want to say. They are nonstop, frenetic. Every O-line coach. So to think that Atkins could do all that, and then also in his spare time, in those spare 9 seconds he has, think about, okay, what I want to call on first down. Venables, I know Venables isn't in the league anymore. This DC is doing this to me. How do I combat that? What do I do? How do I scheme against the pressure they're bringing? All that stuff that an OC has to think in the middle of a game. Can you do that if you're coaching offensive linemen for 10 minutes at a time, like really coaching them? So I don't know, man. I'm not saying it's impossible. He might do it, but the way it would appear to me, if we're going by what the other O-line coaches in the country do, it would go to somebody else calling plays, which would probably be Mike Norvell. And you're right. That's more on his plate.
Kind of like it, though. Kind of admire it. The predecessor, when things were spiraling out of control, was like, let's take stuff off your plate. Norvell seems to be wanting to take more onto his plate if he's going to end being the primary play caller. By the way, Josh Gaddis, he's the play caller for Michigan. So, yeah, the offensive line coach doesn't call plays.
Yeah, but he's named he's co-offensive coordinator.
Right.
I didn't figure he was calling plays. I wouldn't figure many of those guys call plays. I would be surprised if Alex Atkins called plays. Now, he has been an OC in the past at Charlotte. So I think it was for a year, but their numbers were, pedestrian. They weren't awful. He's done it before. So I'm more worried. I'm more concerned, not so much the play calling. I mean, there's so many plays you call, right? I think it's more about what you do the game planning week to week. How much, because coaching offensive line is hard, man. It's hard. And he's got to coach 3 different positions, tackles, guards, and centers. He's got to find the right combination. He busts his butt. If you've been out at a practice, you see it. It's nonstop. Is he also then every day going to break down film of an opposing defense? Not that coaching quarterbacks is easy, but you're coaching 3 guys. There's a reason that I would say 80 to 85% of college offensive coordinators are QB coaches. Because it's like the least work you have to do with one position group. You're coaching 2 or 3 guys. Some are tight ends coaches. And you couldn't do that at Florida State because you got too many dudes. Chris Thompson's got to coach 14 guys. He didn't have time to organize a game plan. So we will ask Norvell. Hopefully we'll be able to ask him here soon. If not, maybe on the next signing day. But I am very interested in how that's going to break out. My initial thought is that it'll probably be Norvell calling plays, and then it'll be a combination of like Tokars, the new QB coach, and Atkins and Norvell designing and coming up with a game plan throughout the week.
I just wonder, so what's in it for Alex then? Does he just get a pay raise? I mean, he's not going to call yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, that is a promotion, and so this guy is a big deal. And I might be wrong; he might call plays. This might be his offense. We'll see. But he is a young, up and coming coach, and I think he has a chance to be a rising star in this profession. And you want to keep him happy. If you like the guy and he put in to be the OC, then yeah, you give him the job to keep him on the staff.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments, when the offensive line's out there, he's probably giving them some verbal pointers and stuff. But maybe there's, red zone stuff. He had run game coordinator responsibilities when he was at Tulane. So maybe it's one of those things where they get into the red zone, tight zone, and they want to have maybe some other running plays that they won't run traditionally between the 20s. Maybe that's his time to kind of dial some stuff up. I just think that they've been very collaborative from this ever since they arrived, Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham. I wouldn't think if Alex Atkins had some concepts, some ideas, I can't see them being like, yeah, that's cool, but just go coach the O-line. We'll handle this. I feel like he wouldn't have been turned down previously if he had ideas. So I just wonder what's for him to gain. But yeah, I mean, it's an added title, and I'm sure a little more money on top of it, so that's always a nice thing. But, yeah, excited to see how this works out, and we'll see. Hopefully, I don't know when's the next time we're going to speak to Coach, but we'll ask him, obviously. We shall ask him. All right, to the top of the mailbag, Birds the Knoll. Well, someone needs to wake up. If I were to come on here talking all optimistic, I would be lying. But that doesn't mean I'm completely disappointed. I think I speak for most Florida State University fans when I say this week, I guess last week, we all had an emotional roller coaster. I'm sure y'all are going to get your fair share of questions about a very particular coach and about a very particular former player, but don't worry. I would love to ask that anyways, but I'm going to ask, looking at this class, including freshmen and transfers, starting day one against the almighty Duquesne Dukes, who starts? Who's contributing big time next year in terms of, again, transfers, freshmen, as of right now, Corey? He says personally he thinks, actually I should pull up the pronouncer from Amstaff Knoll. He's kind of a grumpy guy sometimes. Amstaff Knoll lost a whole bunch of weight and got swole, and now he just like always is needling everybody. It's a young man from Niceville, and he gave me the pronouncer for it, so I got to scroll through all my Bucks tweets that got lots of traction. I want to screw it up. Azar EA.
Okay.
That doesn't seem right to me, but Azar EA. Thomas? Pittman he's got in there, which, Mycah Pittman, we didn't speak about that. Transfer from Oregon, shout out. Sam McCall and Caden Lyles. Come on, guys. Give me the first and last names. I don't know these guys. I'm not as dialed in as you guys are. Just kidding. All day one impact players. McCall, I mean, if we're going to go who's going to be impactful freshmen and transfers, I will put the transfers in front of the freshmen. But I like that list.
Yeah, I do too. I think those are probably the four that have the best chance so far. There's going to be more coming. You especially think out wide at wide receiver. They got at least one more coming, probably two, you hope. But, I think those four are probably the four you would think. I think the two transfers are at least in line to start right now. We'll see how it plays out, but I would be surprised if both those guys don't start. And Pittman will go catch punts. So you got that going for you too.
It's amazing. Might be a very difficult question to answer, but looking at the portal guys right now, who do you want? Who do you look at and say, come on home, baby? Or maybe for simplicity's sake, so far the players FSU has offered, who do you look at and scream for dear life, hoping they end up here? Anyways, I enjoyed the last few hours of the early signing period stream. I would have watched the whole thing, but as a lazy 19-year-old, I'm not waking up at 7 a.m.
Smart.
Keep that up.
Yeah, that's how you live your life. Don't wake up at 7 a.m. unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah. That kid, his name escapes me. We spoke about him the other day, the 5-star from LSU. I don't know if they've offered him, but I saw him go in the portal. I was like, I'd like that. Jason Jones, defensive lineman. I think he's more of an interior guy. And we need listen, there hasn't been anybody edge rush that's been in the portal right now. So we can gnash our teeth and get upset about the fact they haven't addressed that need, but there just really hasn't been anybody in there yet. But the Jason Jones kid from Oregon and, Corey something is his name, I think. I don't know. I could be totally wrong about that. But the receiver from LSU, because he was a 5-star, produced fairly well this past season, and also returns kicks or punts, one or the other. And we need help there.
I think he had 30 catches, the kid from LSU did, and he is a former 5-star, second-year player, I think. So, it's not like the jury's out on him, like that he can't play. He's 30 catches in a year ain't shabby for a redshirt freshman. So, that would be nice. I think the kid from Albany, the defensive end from Albany, Verse.
Oh, Jared Verse. And it's Trey Palmer. Not even close. Not Corey at all. Trey Palmer. Sorry. Yeah, Jared Verse from Albany. Large human being.
Yeah, and you hear Albany and go, I don't know. But look who's offered that kid. Mm-hmm. Everybody. So they're all seeing the same thing. He must really be able to play. And sometimes that happens, man. I know it's a basketball reference, but, the Curry brothers outplayed where they signed immediately. Like, okay, I'm better than this. I can go play somewhere else. Now, Seth did. But either way, that's going to start happening a bunch in college football too, where a guy is going to go to a smaller school that doesn't get looked at. He's going to, maybe over a year or two develop into a high-level Division I football player. Could go anywhere. Like the kid, was it FAU? The offensive lineman that signed with the LSU but was offered by like Ohio State, LSU, Florida State, the whole Frazier.
Yeah, Miles Frazier. Yeah,
that
FIU.
happens. Like the kid obviously wasn't that big a deal coming out of high school, but then 1 year on film in college football, all of a sudden everybody wants him. This might be the same thing with Verse at Albany, and I know they've been on him, so I don't know that he has a Jermaine Johnson type impact. Don't expect that. But if you could get a guy like that, even though he's from Albany, that's addressing an area of need, and it's a guy that a lot of people want. Now, there's no star rating next to him, but it's a guy that a lot of people want. So, just judge that for what it's worth and know that you're getting a real player.
Growing up, my dad used to take me to the game at the stadium. We'd watch our favorite team play, and then we'd always eat at Zaxby's. That's why it means so much to me that Zaxby's is the official chicken of college fans. To me, they go together perfectly. It reminds me of my dad and...
Oh, come on, Ref! Are you serious? Get some glasses! Terrible call!
Now, I take my kids to the game, and we always eat at Zaxby's, too. It's tradition.
We're proud to be the official chicken of college fans. Zaxby's, indescribably good.
D-Epps, 1987, first-time poster, long-time listener, born and raised in Tallahassee. Famous people from the nasty, ? Sir Francis Epps, first mayor of Tallahassee and one of the founders of the school we love. T-Pain, Antonio Cromartie.
There you go. That's a good list.
That's robust. If we land that wide receiver transfer from Louisville, Jordan Watkins, combined with Mycah Pittman, is that enough to save Ron Dugans and his job? I know he's one of our own, but I hope some portal wins are not enough to keep a move from being made. What say you? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's, fellas. Well, man, you want him gone, sounds like there, D-Epps. I think portal wins are enough because portal wins are instant impact. Listen, Kevin Coleman would be really cool. I don't know who else is out there receiver-wise. I mean, Devon Mortimer would have been really cool. I don't want to wait, and everybody, I don't want to wait. I want 9-10 wins now. You'll get that with guys that are 21 years old and they've been in a college strength program and they've been in pretty good offenses. I think Mario, the offense, him and Joe Moorhead are running at Oregon, above average. Louisville, Scott Satterfield, they've got their warts. Their offense, pretty explosive. I'll take those guys over 18-year-old guys right now. Once we get this thing, once we have climbed and we have reached the mountaintop, yes, we will do more grassroots, homegrown talent stuff. But, yeah, man, Mycah Pittman, that's a big win. Although I guess, I don't know, we can say that was a lot of Kenny Dillingham's doing. Shout out to him, as opposed to the great Walt Bell, polar opposites.
Right.
But, yeah, man, you bring those two dudes in, that's your segment. Maybe they're not coming to play specifically for you. But I don't know, Corey, what if the kid from Louisville, if that's something that Norvell and, let's say, David Johnson are really involved in closing the deal, do you kind of look around and say, Ron, man, we appreciate you, but we're pulling a lot of the weight here. We need to move in a different direction. But then you're like, we have these guys. Let's see what he's got now with good groceries.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always hard to speculate on something like that. I think that it's not ideal to go an entire signing class without signing a high school wide receiver
in this state, with everybody, all the other tumult going on around here.
That's not ideal. Really, honestly, he's signed 2 in the last 2 years. 1 didn't play at all this year. Destin Hill, who knows where that dude is or what's going on with him. So you got Malik McClain to show for the last 2 years so far. That's not getting it done at stocking that position. And, I think the Pittman kid is probably going to be better than Andrew Parchment, but transfers they're not automatics typically. Like there are a few, obviously, that are, but not many. There's a reason this kid left Oregon, just like there's a reason Parchment left Kansas. There's a reason this kid's leaving Louisville. It doesn't automatically mean it's going to be a seamless transition like it was for Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas and those guys. So we'll see how he works out with that. I wouldn't say that if he just gets 2 wide receiver recruits that he needs to lose his job, but at some point you got to start stockpiling this roster with elite level wide receivers because it's Florida State and you need them. And you haven't had a playmaker out there in a good long while. And I know it's too early to give up on guys like Portier and Williamson, but they've been here 2 years now and didn't really show us much of anything as far as in the way of being game changers. And you need game changers. And I don't know how many times game changers, like straight up All-American type players or all-conference type players, just transfer. especially at that position. I know the kid at Alabama did, but he came from Ohio State, which was loaded with dudes.
I know.
But other than that, you don't see that a lot maybe at that position. So you really do have to kind of develop and stock your roster from within. And yeah, it's not a good sign. It's not ideal that you've gone a year without signing a high school recruit so far. I guess there's still kids out there they have a chance at. But yeah, I'm certainly not saying hit the button and fire him right now. Let's see how the rest of the next 2 months plays out. But he would certainly be on a hot seat going into next season, no matter who he brings in, because they got to start producing.
Well, isn't it almost too late at that point if you give him till February? Because what if it doesn't work out? I saw somebody post this, paraphrasing. I think they were saying that Tom Lang on the Jeff Cameron show was saying that maybe Kevin Coleman's a silent commit, and that's why Ron's safe for now. I don't know how safe any silent commit is now in light of what happened. What
wouldn't Ron be like, hey, man, speak up.
I need it, man.
You don't have to be silent. You could have signed. You could have been a signed commit. Why would you be a silent commit? That's crazy to me. Kevin, why are you doing this to me? Do you not like me? No, I don't know why he would be a silent commit, not just a commit, not just a signee. But no, I mean, yeah, and also you can't trust any of that, man. Travis Hunter was a very loud, very prominent commit for 2 years. Spoke it from the mountaintops with a bullhorn. And then the day of, he goes somewhere else. So you can't, until they're signed, you can't count on anything. So we'll see. Hopefully that's the case, that he ends up at Florida State. That would certainly help Dugans' prospects for sure.
Frosty Frog. Any chance Travis J., Joshua Burrell, and or Damori Tate switch to wide receiver? Burrell is a receiver. He just hurt. I know Travis J. was also a star playing receiver in high school. We have several. I thought he played quarterback mostly.
He did.
We have several defensive backs who could also have been recruited as a receiver. Thoughts? Yeah, just, again, to Corey's point, what do you say, game changers? I don't know if cross-training in year 3 for some of these guys, year 2, is going to give you what you need. Not a bad idea. I'm sure there'll be some position changes, but you don't get a lot of, Xavier Rhodes kind of situations when this stuff happens. Him, Cameron Irving, they're the exceptions to the rule when you flip them, it seems like. But it's worth kicking the tires. Unless Travis J. was hurt this past season and that's what limited his availability or your willingness to put him out there, maybe they still believe him in a defensive back. Listen, man, every defensive coordinator, every staff has said good things about that kid. So I don't know if maybe he was ready to turn the corner and was hurt, but I think if I can speak for most of us, if they release the spring roster and Travis J. and or Damori Taylor both a receiver, I think people are a lot more intrigued and excited about that than they are seeing those guys listed third on a depth chart.
Yeah, I would say
at defensive back.
With both of them, I would imagine it's it's just the world we live in. I would say it's 50-50 whether they're in the portal or not. If they want to stay DBs. Like, I don't know about Damori Tate. I don't know what his high school career was like, how much he played on offense.
He had some good burn on offense.
Okay, but Travis J. is a legitimate offensive player. Like, he was one of the better offensive players in the state in his classification for Madison County, and was their quarterback, and was a great he's just a great athlete, and I don't know that he was hurt because he was still out there returning kicks. So he couldn't have been that hurt. I just think they don't really have a plan they don't have a plan for him on defense. They don't have a role for him to play. He's tried 2 things. He wasn't really good at either one in their eyes. And so, if he's going to have any sort of career at Florida State, it would appear he's going to have to do it at another position. Now, maybe he doesn't want to switch positions again. Maybe he's dead set on playing defense. But if he wants to play offense, I think they would certainly give him a look and see what he could do, because this was his 3rd year out of high school. And he still, by the end of the year, wasn't playing at all on defense. And the guys that were in front of him are all coming back. So what would give him a reason to think that he's going to play more next year? So he might, just looking at it pragmatically, he might want to be like, well, this is my only shot to make an impact at the college level. He is 6'2" and fast and pretty big. Yeah, I'd give him a shot, man. I'd give him. Could it be worse than what you were running out there? So he might be awesome. I'm sure this has been talked about in those offices. So I don't know about Damori Tate, but I would think that if Travis Jay is back on the Florida State roster, I would lean towards him probably making a move to offense just to see what he can do. Or fatten him up by 50 pounds and make him a defensive end.
Or 15 pounds, make him play linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think linebacker's a little more instinctual, though. Defensive end, you could just say, hey, man, you're our third down guy. Go rush the passer.
Okay.
You know?
All right. The honeymoon is over for random_John. This is a grumpy one. Love him, though. Good morning, Aslan and Corey from Aslan's Proclaimed Burner account. Aslan, you have at least one fan out here in the War Chant fam. Thanks, man. That's you're the reason Gene kept me around. Appreciate you, John. Now that our FSU, Florida State University coaching staff has allowed itself to be caught off guard multiple times on signing day, at least once in the grandest of fashions, what repercussions do you feel the coaching staff should endure? After all, they are paid quite handsomely in the millions of dollars to not be caught off guard. If the expectation is for coaches to be caught off guard, then great, but if it's not, what should happen? Also, what is your opinion of this coaching staff believing that the wide receiver and linebacker positions are so unimportant that they just whiffed? Sure, they signed one linebacker, but last I checked, we needed many, many more than one. Not only that, the one bell cow at the position chose to not go to FSU, a school that definitely needs talent like this. What does that say about our coaching staff's ability to develop relationships, evaluate, and communicate with players? Is there anything FSU can do beyond replacing the coaches at those positions? Would it be enough anyways? We are now 2 years into not signing elite talent at those positions, thus making the climb that much steeper. Well, I mean, you did change linebacker coaches. Speaking of steep, make sure to procure yourself a magnificent holiday order of DeLuna coffee and steep yourself a delicious cup. You won't regret it. Do you steep coffee, though, John? You steep tea. I think you brew coffee. Put your head and heart are in the right place. As always, subscribe to War Chant, eat Zaxby's, go Noles, happy holidays, everyone. A lot in there, Corey. Did you keep up? I've got all the words in front of me, so it's easier for me. I have to read all this stuff out to you, and you have to jot it down in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, the criticism about wide receivers and linebackers is certainly fair, but it's also not something that just started 2 years ago. I mean, they haven't signed a big time linebacker in how long? Who was it? I mean, I don't know why. But there has been a dearth of talent at that position for years, going on a decade now, where they just can't sign good linebackers. And there's been a lot of linebackers coaches that have come and gone. I don't know why. Marv certainly wasn't knocking out of the park on the recruiting trail. And then at wide receiver, it's the same thing. Like they just I don't know why. It's hard to explain.
Matthew Thomas probably, right? Matthew Thomas is the last.
Yeah, I guess that was 13. You know what I mean? And he wanted to go to USC as soon as he signed. Yeah. He wanted to go play at USC, and they wouldn't let him out of his LOI. So, which I guess isn't even a thing anymore, right? Like, when the transfer portal's open, could you just sign the LOI and then transfer the next day?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I still think maybe you need to get released from it, and it might be a little bit different at that point. But I would think that if you're like, no, we're not going to release you, like, all right, well, maybe there's a waiting period. But yeah, at that point, maybe there's some leverage.
Yeah. I don't know how that works. But anyway, so when it comes to those two positions, those have been mysteries and killers for Florida State for years now. That does not mean that the coaches don't understand how vital that is. But yes, that is a fair criticism that they are still not hitting it out of. They're not hitting the ball. Period. Not out of the park. They're not hitting the ball. Period in either one of those positions. But again, it's not 1997 anymore, or 2007, or 2017. Number one, you have an early signing period, but that doesn't mean the class is done. In fact, we know it isn't. They've gotten, what have they got? They signed 15 kids, right? And they've gotten 3 transfers, something like that. So they have 18 new players they brought in already. Well, they're going to 32. So there's still 12 to 14 more kids that might be joining this roster. Let's see how it shapes out before we say for sure they're just ignoring linebacker and wide receiver. They got one of the higher profile wide receiver transfers in the portal already, and there's other guys out there. So let's see how they do there before we say they don't care or they're not trying. or they're not doing well enough. Linebacker is a different story. They've got to get better there. I don't understand what's going on. They do now have a new linebackers coach, so hopefully that will shake out differently. As far as getting surprised
quick, though, the bummer on that with Randy Shannon is that there was 2 really talented defensive players out of the state of Miami, if you will. The Wesley Basante kid at linebacker, and then Nigel Kelly, who for a long time was committed to Florida State. Now, that's not to say that Odell just walks into Polk County and gets everybody he wants. I mean, that would have been a really nice start to your promotion to pull one of those guys, and you didn't get either of them. So,
but I mean, look who
let's give him some more runway, I guess.
He lost them both to Miami, right?
Yes.
To another Miami guy. He didn't commit to Al Golden. He committed to a guy that's as much Miami as Randy Shannon is. Yeah. So, that doesn't excuse it, but you lost that battle. And also, we talked about this on headlines. Like, when do we stop, and I'm not saying it's now, but it'll be coming soon, where we stop labeling guys great recruiters? Because what's going to be the reality in the next few years when it comes to recruiting?
Well, Georgia and Alabama aren't going to stop because, you're right, money, because who's got the deepest pockets?
Yes.
Who's got the best packages.
And there is a legitimate conversation to be had about spending $80 million on a football facility when you could just funnel that money into player acquisitions. What's better for your program? If it's all up and up, which it is now, what's better for your program in the short term? What's better for your program in the long term? Ooh. Spending $80 million over the next 10 years on a football facility, or spending $80 million over the next 10 years on getting players onto your campus?
So we've been playing chess this whole time, Corey.
No, I don't think that. But it's legitimate. It's a legitimate question. There's a lot of money going to that football facility. They've secured a lot of money. They're asking for more money. They're asking for a lot of donations. I could understand a big money booster being like, wait, do we really even need this football facility now? Like, the whole reason we're building the football facility is to keep up with all these other big-time schools that have one so we can recruit against them. Well, now we can just offer them money. And a kid isn't going to turn down, if he gets offered $70,000 from Alabama and Florida State offers him $200,000, he's not going to turn down the extra $130,000 because Alabama has a barber shop in their football facility.
Add it up over the course of a month, 3 years, the haircuts.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what would you do? Probably, right, Aslan? I'm just asking. Well, $250.
Here's the thing. I'm a weird guy in this. I would look at, because I'm an older dude. I can't put myself in the mind of an 18-year-old. I still look at like Nick Saban. Like, he probably has a better chance of getting me into the NFL than Mike Norvell or Dave Dorn or whatever you want. I still think I know that's a weird example, but there's other things you have to look at, I think. But money is.
But do you think that Alabama? Do you think Alabama would take that chance and be like, "Look, we're just going to lowball these offers because we got Nick"? Hell no.
Well, that's
they
a problem.
Taking that chance.
That's a problem. They're not in that predicament. They've got it all. They can offer. I mean, Georgia can do that. Yep. Michigan's going to be able to do that.
All of them can.
They can. Hey, we have money and we have facilities. We have all these things. But I guess when it comes down to it, if you're a player, you're more likely to take a little bit more money and not have a sleeping pod.
And I guess what I would ask John about the part of the start of his question, which was referencing Travis Hunter and being taken by surprise on signing day, what would you have had Florida State do? Like, what did they do wrong? Should they have offered him $4 million? What should they have had a documentary lined up for him? Like that, I don't know what they did. A kid that told them that he was coming all the way up until the night before, assured them he was coming, was tweeting about the signing the class. The night before, literally 12 hours before, he decided to pull the all-time stunner. I mean, I don't know what they were supposed to do and what they could have done to combat it, because they're not an HBCU, and Deion Sanders is not their head coach, and they don't have Barstool. So there's not there. If those were the reasons that Travis Hunter, maybe in that order, that Travis Hunter decided to go to Jackson State, I don't know how Florida State.
But in this day and age, Corey, I think most people agree now that this wasn't a last-second decision, like something had been brewing for maybe a week or so. How in this day and age does nobody get tipped off to this? Like, I just have I don't know what the punishment is or the repercussions you do on this. I don't know if it's more Marcus Woodson's fault than it is Mike Norvell's for not understanding what's going on. Marcus Woodson's from the South. He knows how it works. He should have enough contacts and networking to know that maybe this kid is on is on tilt right now, and things are going to go not all that well. But, man, how did he keep a secret? Like, I mean, how do you keep a secret for more than 48 hours if you're the number one prospect in the entire nation? So I don't see Nick Saban getting hustled like that. I don't see Kirby getting caught like, oh, wow, we don't know that. I mean, the story was he was supposed to send his LOI in at like 7 in the morning. Man, when it's 7:13 and it hasn't come through, when it's 8:05 and it hasn't come through, I guess the only thing you can do is try to win the PR battle at that point and somehow say, hey, we're going to get outbid for this kid. I don't know if you can even come out and say it that way. You can't.
And you also don't want to do that because it's not 1998 anymore. He might very well be at your school next year.
That's not being rude, though. Like, hey, man, we're not going to be able to get this kid. We're gonna trust his. We're gonna not trust, but we're gonna appreciate his decision to go somewhere else. We don't have the package to put together to bring him over here. But then I guess you look like, oh, we don't have money, and then you look like you're poor.
So you're talking about the PR battle. I was talking about the actual getting him on campus battle. Well, I just don't know what they could have done there. Yeah, you're right. PR.
You got film school. Maybe they could have done a documentary. We've got an award-winning film school.
Well, that's a lot to scramble together. Yeah, the guy that did our man Barry Jenkins. Yeah. That did Moonlight. Yeah. He could have done the Travis Hunter story and figured out a way to incorporate that. But, yeah, I don't – like, you know, there's nobody – there was no smoke there at all. So he did – credit to Travis Hunter. He did do – and Dion, I guess. They did an incredible job of – because usually when something like that is brewing –
Man, Dion said the day before that he's going to shock the world.
There was smoke. You know what I mean? There's usually smoke there. There was really nobody at all. On any site, Georgia, Florida State, Rivals, 247, On 3, any of them, none of them were talking about that. So it really did kind of come out of nowhere. And, yeah, I guess they could have had more ears to the grindstone and figured it out one way or the other.
Ears to the ground, nose to the grindstone, ears to the ground.
I like to say ears to the grindstone, right. Aslan. Don't ever correct me again. It was right. You know it's right. It makes perfect sense. But, you know, I just think it was an awful 2 hours for Florida State? Because you know when the word started leaking out, they're like, what in the world? And like you said, yeah, it was supposed to be at 7 a.m. They were supposed to get that. When it didn't come, you know they weren't just like, I don't think Norvell was just kicking his feet up like, it'll come, whatever. What's for breakfast? Like, I think they were worried. I think they were reaching out. I think they were trying to call him. But if the kid has his phone off the hook, or not off the hook, it's not 1985. If he's not answering his cell phone, there's only so much you can do. And it just, you know, it was a bummer for Florida State, for those coaches. But I once he decided to do that and the money that's involved, unless you're advocating Mike Norvell saying we're going to give you right now whatever they're offering you, whoever you say they are, whoever you determine they to be, whatever they're offering you, we'll offer you 500 more. You know, is that the game you want to play? Because that's the game that's going to be played here until this thing gets modified somehow.
Yeah. All right, moving along. Quinn67, wake up, happy holidays. Wake up, happy holidays. Just think, Nole fans, in another week or so, we'll be leaving 2021 behind. We can remember it as the year our rivals had to start over again. Yep. While the climb is tortuously slow, I do feel that we are headed in the right direction. I know early sign day did not look great from the outside, but hey, we signed a top 15 class with a bunch of trench beasts and an Elite 11 quarterback that is actually enrolling at FSU, LFG. Yeah. Let's go. We've got plenty of defensive backs. Those guys artificially inflate most teams' recruiting class rankings, as they did ours for years. We will be continuing to climb once we grab a couple receivers and linebackers from the portal. No question for the week. Just want to wish everyone a great holiday season. I hope you all get a chance to spend time with the people that make you happy. Quinn67. Go Noles, class of 93.
That's
Amen.
Sweet. Thanks, Quinn.
Thanks, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Corey tweeted about it. You know, all the world is coming to an end. Like, hey, we're top 15 right now. So, and at some point they're going to take Corey's idea and make it and enact it into law and make transfers part of the star rating system, so you get credit for those guys. Island Chief, wake up! Season's greetings to all. So many questions regarding the upcoming changes that will be made in 2022 regarding college football and how it moves forward. The NCAA, conferences, broadcasters, schools, players, fans, and even state governments will all want to be in on it. Who, I ask, emerges as the voice of reason and the clear winner when all of this shakes out? Love you guys and all of your sponsors. You keep me smiling and caffeinated. Thanks, Island Chief. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. The voice of the reason and the what winner?
Who emerges as the voice of reason and the clear winner when all of this shakes out? Those are diametrically opposite, though, right? Like, I don't know if the voice of reason is not going to be the winner. The winner is going to be like with Greg Sankey. Probably the SEC is going to eventually be the harbinger of the Super Conference, whatever this 32, 40, 60 team, whatever we end up doing.
I mean, this is where it's going, right? You can't put this back in the bottle now. So players are going to be paid.
The voice of reason got to be the Manning family. The Mannings are the only ones that can save this sport. They're the ones that people listen to.
I just wish there was a way, and you can't, there's no way to have it, but if you had a commissioner that oversaw all this and really did act in the best sense of the sport, because they're all competing interests. Like the SEC is trying to dominate everyone. So is the Big Ten. Other conferences are trying to catch up. You're trying to take schools from other conferences, and there's nobody that sits there and says, "Is this good for the sport?" Like NIL, that's a great in theory, but what that was supposed to be was, okay, man. These coaches are making $11 million a year. If the All-American quarterback wants to do an ad for a Chevy dealership or wants to tweet something or sign autographs and sell his autographs, he shouldn't be Todd Gurley'd out of the season. He should be allowed to do that. That's his name. He's making money on his name. He's making money on his uniform. If he wants to have a company that sells T-shirts, he should be allowed to do it. That's what they thought they were getting with NIL. Like, it's fine. Let them make money. Now it's become the number one recruiting weapon. And kids are going to be going to school based solely on how much they're going to get paid to do it. All right, fine. Then it's a professional sport, and let's treat it as such. And every professional sport has a commissioner. This one doesn't. This one's got a bunch of sheriffs in different parts of the county that don't care about the other cities in the county, and it turns into mayhem. And that's what's so frustrating about it is this was easy to see. This wasn't like this was a surprise. That is the very first signing day. Most of the talk was about NILs and money being spent because the number one player in the country for the first time ever decided. I mean, it would have been a cool story. People lose sight of this. How cool a story would it have been for a kid, the number one player in the country, to commit to a losing team? I don't think that had ever happened before. Like, legitimately, I should go back and look in the Rivals database, but whoever was the number one player in the country, I doubt they ever signed with a 5-win team in a team coming off 4 straight losing seasons. That in itself was a cool story. But no, it became a whole different story, and we know money was involved. I'm not saying he's not doing it for other reasons, more altruistic reasons, and I hope he has a great career. Fine, sure. But the money played a part, and we knew it was going to play a part. And it's like it happened so quickly. Like you think other college coaches were like, man, be cool. Let's not bring so much notice to NIL right away. Let's be cool, man. But no, of course, because it's college football, they all go balls out. And this is what you're left with. So here we are after one signing day, and it's not even done yet. Well, there's still another one coming. That's all anybody cares about is the NIL. And, and then there's the portal. So you have these two things working all the time where it's like, so you have NIL where there's no policy in place on how much money you can pay a player to come to your school under the guise of a sponsorship deal or whatever. There's nothing in place. So there's no parity. There's no equality, which is fine. You can say Ohio State and Alabama have always been really good. Sure. But they've always been playing kind of under the same rules. Now there are no rules. And then, and obviously I know there's under the table stuff that's been going on forever. Got it. Just saying. Now it's above board, but there are no rules. So you have kids getting paid a lot of money without having to commit to the place they're signing with. When a free agent signs with the Falcons or the Bucks, they're locked in. They don't get to transfer to the Patriots after a year. So they've got to figure out, this is now a pro sport by every measure. It always was anyway. Now it is absolutely a professional sport. There has to be a mechanism to figure out how you're gonna work with this. Because right now it just sucks. It just sucks. This is ridiculous. Every year you're like, who's coming in the portal? You got to re-recruit your kids all the time. Who's making this money? What kind of deals are you setting up? You're setting up deals for kids that have never played a down of college football just to get them on your campus, not knowing if they're going to stay on your campus for even 2 years. So somebody has to get a hold of the thing. I would love to be commissioner. First thing I do is get rid of targeting ejections. Second thing I do is address the NIL and figure out what we got to do. And I really would like to talk to Alford about it, because this was a committee he served on for years. When he was at Central Michigan, I think he was the head of the chairman. He was the head of the committee, the chairman of the committee to figure out NIL. So I want to know what he thinks and where this thing is going, because right now there seems to be no rhyme or reason. There's just no regulations, and you can't have a professional sport without some regulations. Even baseball, that does not have a salary cap, still has regulations. You're not a free agent for 6 years. You go to arbitration after 4 years. All these things are in place to keep keep it somewhat balanced. And now you're going to have a kid, you just don't know. You're going to have kids bought right out from under you in broad daylight from one team to another just because they're offering to pay more money.
I just don't even think a salary cap would work, because what's going to stop that booster from whatever reporting it as a $40,000 deal but then giving the kid $20,000 under the table? That's a problem with the fact that all this money is not coming from a centralized place. And maybe there's something to where all the money goes to the university,
yes,
and then the university has to distribute it to the players.
Yes.
And then maybe
that's what I think will end up. That's what has to happen. That's what will end up having to happen. The money, the TV revenue, everything that football creates goes into one pile, and the coaches and players all get paid from that one pile.
Make your own pile.
That's right. There you go. There you go, buddy. That's a good reference.
That, and then I just wonder, I'm all about the commissioner thing. There does need to be somebody who looks out for the best of the sport. It's just the sport is so regionalized. Like who's the guy that everybody can get behind? Who's the purple guy in a world of blue and red that everybody can be like, all right, I don't think he's going to hedge stuff to favor his alma mater or the SEC or the SEC. So
right.
But there does obviously, you're absolutely, man. It needs to be more centralized. There needs to be oversight. There does need to be that sort of commissioner. I really hope, I'd love for Peyton Manning to do that, but why would he want to do that? He's making
I don't know that he do that. But and again, and I'm all for players getting paid, and I want them to get paid what they're worth, but we don't know what they're worth. There's been no real market established. Did Travis Hunter establish the market? Did Barstool Sports? Did Dion?
Well, that Quinn Ewers kid from Texas that went to Ohio State allegedly got like a 6-figure deal, and he never even threw a pass. Or he might have thrown one pass.
That would be my point. If you want to clear up the transfer portal and make these commitments more than just 8 months, that will be part of. I think that would be part of something they sign with the school. These scholarships are not going to be 1 year renewable; they're 4 years renewable, and you sign up and say you sign for a deal of $150,000 over the course of your career, or $200,000 over the course of your career, because you're a scholarship athlete. That's what you get. Plus, you can make money. You can make money on your own through social media. But this is the money that comes from the kitty for Florida State, the pot from Florida State, and you cannot transfer. It is a contract where you both have to agree that you're transferring. You know what I mean? Look, it's the NFL without contracts. And if you're going to treat it like the NFL, we already have the NFL. Like Jeff said this on the headlines today. We already have a pro football league, and it's a good one. So this is going to be a college football trying to become pro football, but having no mechanism in place to do it. And it's just going to get uglier and uglier. And I hope, because I love this sport, I hope there's a way to stabilize it. Because right now it seems as unstable as it ever has. And so hopefully it can work itself out. Also get rid of the early signing day or move it up to August or something.
Yeah. Drill Sergeant Porter, wake up! Yes, I did make it from Ohio to Florida. I'm in Tampa working for a government contractor via McDill. Tampa is best known for all-time FSU legend Aslan Hajavandi.
Ooh, nice. Yeah,
I thought he was living in the Panhandle. Look at you in Tampa. Man, I fell back in love with Tampa this past weekend. I went home for that Bucs-Saints game.
Sounded like you had a great time at the football game. Yeah, and what awesome. A game, too.
I liked it. I'm sorry, I did. I really did. It was a 1-0 postseason baseball game. I found the beauty in it. I really did. My cousin did not. He's a big Tom Brady fan and just was like, man, this sucks. He's not making any plays. I'm like, good. Who likes Tom Brady? Anyways, Drill Sergeant Porter goes on to say, I agree that the NCAA needs to regulate the NIL much better, but what happened to FSU won't be what pushes them to do so. I mean, if it were Alabama or someone, sure, but our own conference let Dabo continue to talk about us last year after our game was canceled. Anyway, regardless, I like our class coming in so far and feel we addressed some needs, but we still need more receivers. I hope you both have a safe and happy holiday. Holidays, plural. As always, go Noles.
You too, Drill Sergeant Porter. You too, buddy. Have a happy holiday.
Yeah. By the way, I glossed over NYC Nole. Love you, man. Paul Gleason avatar, NYC Nole. The question is like a Ira Schofel department, so I'm trying to see if I get Ira to phone a friend. Or if he'll let me phone him as a friend. The Walking Nole 01. This is Walker from Mississippi. His avatar is Corey, looking frightened during headlines.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Wake up, guys. The big man in the red suit is on his way. Let's hope he brings with him some defensive ends and a couple more receivers. Parenthetically, he says Kevin Coleman, fingers crossed emoji. 2 questions today. First off, any Christmas Eve traditions that either of you do, like a certain dish for dinner that night? My mom and grandmother usually make some type of crab stew. Nothing like seafood for Christmas Eve dinner. Yeah, Hutch of Andy Clan, we don't celebrate Christmas, so we don't really do anything big for that. But Corey, take it. Come on. What do the Clarks do?
Well, I used to go to Griffin every year. That was my mom's family, and our tradition was we would have a normal, Christmas dinner. There was like 30 of us there, cousins, uncles, and everything. Sadly, many of them are not with us anymore. Plus, COVID's kind of ruined things the last year or two. So we don't do that anymore because the woman's house, Granny, she's my aunt, but I called her Granny. Long story. Anyway, what we would do is we would eat dinner, and then we would go sing Christmas carols for 30 minutes in the guest room, in like her big guest room area. And we would sing Christmas carols for 30 minutes and then open presents. But I did that for the first 40 years of my life. Was we would go to Griffin, we would eat dinner, we'd watch football if it was on, and then at 6 o'clock, 6:30, we'd all sing Christmas carols. There's like 8 of them, Silent Night, Rudolph, First Noel. I can't remember them all
I don't
anymore.
think Rudolph's a carol, is it?
I think we'd sing it, though, because there was always a couple little kids there.
Yeah, all right.
Like Brady was there one year, so he got to sing Rudolph and stuff like that. So, yeah. So it's kind of cool when you think about it, because I remember doing it as a kid, singing Rudolph and singing Jingle Bells. And then there I was 30 years later, 20 years later, my son was doing the exact same thing with the same people. Just older, but the same people. So that was kind of special. That was neat. But that was it. That's the only Christmas Eve tradition I've ever had.
I absolutely love Christmas. Don't get it twisted. We did celebrate Christmas when we were younger, but obviously the reason for the season, my parents were like, hey, you realize that, right? The jig is up. We're not doing it anymore. They got us gifts so we just didn't feel left out. But your guy here, 4 years in a row, cutting down Christmas tree in Thomasville, Georgia, putting lights on it. Yeah, I love Christmas, but I don't know what my Christmas Eve. If I ever have a family, I don't know what my Christmas Eve tradition would be. But I'll have one. I'll let you know, Walker. Second question, as you both know, I'm on the younger side compared to most Warchant subscribers. Oh, this is a good one for you, Corey. What are some foundational games that I should go back and watch? Which games built Bobby's dynasty? Like which what made FSU football made FSU football? I should just read what he said. Like, which games built Bobby's dynasty and made FSU football become FSU football? I know you've mentioned some before. I just could not remember them. Thanks to you both. Spend time with your families and tell them you love them. Merry Christmas.
Nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely, everybody. For sure do that. All right, before you dip into the 80s, would you say 96 Florida game or 98 Florida game is more required viewing?
I would probably say 98 because it's Peter Warwick, and it also didn't cost. I mean, you ended up losing a month later to that same Florida team, so it kind of took some of the shine off that game. It's a great Warwick Dunn game, though, and Boulware Renard Wilson game. But I would still say the 98 game, because then you get Peter Warwick, obviously. You also get Rooster.
Yes.
You get the Outson game where you see he wasn't all that good, was he? But he could run. He was pretty good there. But you get all that. That's a lot of history. That's steeped, as John likes to say. That's steeped in FSU tradition. That Peter Warwick play, the throw to Dugans, and then the way the defense plays, Spurrier with his visor. That's an all-time great one.
All right. What other games though, Corey? Is there a loss that he should watch from back in the day? You think that still speaks well to the program? Or
no, you don't want to do that. Maybe the '87 Miami game. That's a loss you could look at. I mean, there was like 50-something players in that game that played in the NFL. If you watch it, you see how much Florida State dominated that game until the fourth quarter. And then him going for 2 when he could have kicked the extra point and tied it and probably won the national championship. He didn't know that at the time. It was only the 5th game of the season, but still. Deion's in that game. You guys remember him. So I would say 87 Miami would be a good one to for a loss. And then after that, you're looking at, 88 Punt-Ruski, the Clemson game. 89, I'd go with the Miami game in 89. The Dexter Carter scored on the first play. Toretta played for Miami. That was a good one, the 89 game. Maybe 90 Florida, 91 Michigan. There you go. Those are good ones to start with. The 5 I just mentioned every year. The 91 Michigan game is a great one to start with too, or a great part of the starting 5.
What about an 80 game? Pitt, or because we got the War Chat, that's a good supplement. But maybe like the Nebraska game.
I would say the Pitt game, if you can find it, and you should be able to. I know there's a copy out there. The Pitt game or the Nebraska game in 1980. I would say either one of those really did kind of define. The problem is they weren't great the next 5 years. They were good. They just weren't great. So I don't know how much you can say it defined his run at Florida State. But, again, for quick context, in 1979, Florida State went undefeated and then lost to Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl. But they went undefeated, and they were treated like Cincinnati being undefeated this year. They were independent. They didn't play anybody that was good. People kind of, oh, yeah, whatever. It's Florida State. They're not very good. They're not one of the big boys. And then Oklahoma went and beat them 24-7 in the Orange Bowl. So then 1980 comes, and people think, oh, Florida State was just a one-hit wonder. They had one good season. Well, no. They go to Nebraska and win at number 3 Nebraska, and then they come home the very next week and beat number 3 Pitt, with Dan Marino and 4 NFL Hall of Famers on that team. And it was the only loss Pitt had that year. So those 2 wins back-to-back made everybody see, oh, wait, this Bowden guy is legitimately good. Like, he is a great football coach. He has turned Florida State, who 4 or 5 years ago was one of the worst programs in the country, to a program that is a top 10 team that just beat Pitt and Nebraska back-to-back. So either one of those games would be good, I would think, too. But, again, from 81 to 86 then, they fluctuated anywhere between, 6 and 8 wins, or 6 and 9 wins. So they didn't really take the next step until 87.
Okay. And let's go out on a nice note from our guy out in there, Hawaii, Ralph. Aloha, guys. How's it? By the way, we've got more questions left in the bag. We'll do another show for you folks for Thursday. Or maybe we'll drop it on Friday, but we got questions left. We'll do another show for you guys. This has been a very special year for me, writes Ralph. We still have time to squeeze in 1 or 2 more memories after all we've done. First, I finally got off the sidelines and started calling into my favorite podcast, hosted by 2 very entertaining guys. I returned home after a 23-year absence, spent time with my family, watched an awesome football game, and met those 2 very entertaining guys and some cool people who also love my favorite podcast. I also was able to squeeze in a day of volunteer service at the second harvest of the Big Bend while I was in town. Last, but first, enjoyed another year with the best woman I could have asked to bless my journey in this life. We will celebrate 26 years of wedded bliss on 29th of December, and I will hit the big 50 on the 31st of December, the day we achieve the memories of yesterday and usher in the promise of a new year. This year has had many ups and downs, but hey, that's life. Just want to say thank you for being awesome and to wish you both and all of the War Channel Ohana a very special and blessed Christmas season. I love each and every one of you out there. I cannot wait for the next War Chant meet and greet to kick off next year's season of football roller coasters. I am projecting this to be my last War Chant event until the spring game, as I will now spend what free time I have pursuing my dream of becoming an ordained minister. If time permits, I will check in at times. Side note, last month I told you how we Marines got the nickname Devil Dogs. Well, we also have another famous nickname, Leathernecks. This name originated in the colonial days when Marines would board and fight sword to sword on ships. The Marines would sew a piece thick of leather around their collars to protect from the enemy blade, thus the name Leathernecks. Let me know if and when you guys need or want more of the Hawaiian treats, or if the First Ladies of War Chant need a refill on their island beverages. With God's amazing love and grace, your friend, Ralph, in Hawaii.
Man, I don't even know what to say to that.
Merry Christmas, Ralph. Merry
Christmas.
Yeah,
for real, man. Yeah, man, and that's, that does not get lost on us. Not just Ralph, although Ralph is awesome, and I mean that. Just that, we've kind of developed a relationship with our listeners. that is something that's unique to podcasts, I think, that even maybe radio shows back then couldn't do because they were always, whatever it is, they're trying to be, not that we don't try to entertain, but I don't think we play radio. Like, you and I don't have an argument just for the sake of, hey, it might make good radio. Like, if you and I disagree, it's because we disagree. But we also let each other, mainly me, because I talk too much, but we let each other give the nuanced side of a discussion. But we also talk about Brady. We talk about our lives. Aslan used to talk about his Tinder dates. Apparently those just don't happen anymore, much to Stephanie's dismay. But that's the cool thing about a daily podcast is that people do feel like they get to know you, and you do get to know us. We don't get to know you guys that much, although Ralph and people like that, and Shane and people like that we met, and we've kind of developed a relationship through the live stuff. That's cool, man. That's something I didn't even think was a possibility. And it feels like I'm not trying to be corny, but there is like maybe a family's too strong, but it's a fraternity. Maybe it is a family because it's not a frat because you're not all men. So I don't even know what I'm saying, Aslan, but it really is hearing stuff like that, knowing that that 7 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have never even known Ralph existed. Now Ralph's like a part of my life. It's just cool. It's a cool thing that we've been able to develop here, and we don't take it for granted at all. That we have listeners, that we have people that enjoy us and appreciate what we do. It really does mean a lot, and it's a very nice sentiment from Ralph. He also didn't even say, I don't think, that the night before the Notre Dame game, he drove up to go visit a fallen comrade of his, and did not get any sleep. Drove up. Met with another former comrade. They went and visited this fallen soldier together, and then drove right back to Tallahassee. Like, that's just, and now he's going to be an ordained minister. He's a Marine. I mean, just, it's cool to know that people like Ralph exist. Yeah. It really is, and that goes for all of you guys, except for the people that don't like me. Go listen to somebody else.
That sounds plural. There's not plural. There's a singular.
I think there are. Ex-wife listens to this show, so that's one for sure.
All right, Ralph, again, thank you so much. We appreciate that, and we got more questions, and we'll get to them, and if any news does break, we'll also add that on top of the next edition of the program. Jeff Cameron's still going strong, 1 to 3 p.m., live on Warchant TV. That's our YouTube channel, as well as 93.3 FM in Tallahassee. Plenty of content still going up over at warchant.com as we analyze this signing class and look ahead to what we can maybe expect in 2022. So we'll be back with another show for you folks this week, but we do appreciate you tuning in today and always. He's Corey M. Aslan. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.